As of this recording, over 2.5 million refugees have fled Ukraine since the invasion of Russia and the conflict began in their country. They have left for neighboring countries that have been offering relief aid. A number of organizations have already been on the ground helping them in what is expected to be a massive humanitarian effort. Even more refugees are expected to cross the border in the days and the weeks ahead if there is no resolution to this current conflict. Among those organizations on the ground is Catholic Relief Services, and we're going to check in now with one of their staffers who is Chicago-based, but right now she finds herself in the country of Moldova, and she's helping with services there. She's helping getting assistance to refugees, and she's also coordinating communications efforts. So Caroline Brennan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate that you're taking time. You know, I think the question that really comes to my mind first is, what are conditions like there for refugees right now?
It is really kind of like a living nightmare, to be honest, Vince. I spent a lot of the past week along the border areas and also here in the capital city where many refugees have sought refuge. But just to paint a picture for you, along the border areas where people are crossing, first of all, it's taken hours, if not days, to reach border cities here in Moldova to cross. They wait in line for maybe more than a day. Many people are arriving on foot if they don't have a car. The waves of people that you see now fleeing the country are many of those who didn't have the means to flee earlier, so they didn't have transportation, their own personal vehicles or family or network to go and stay with. So they're traveling either on foot or on public transportation, and really at the mercy of charity that's available to them. When they cross over into this country, you see a lot of exhaustion. A lot of women and children, men of a certain age are not allowed to leave the country. So you have a lot of mothers on their own with a lot of children or with their elderly parents or their elderly in-laws that they're taking care of, and just figuring out where to go, who to trust.
That's what I was interested in, is what is their frame of mind? Are they frightened? Are they relieved to be outside of Ukraine? I imagine it's a mix of those different emotions.
I think it's despair. It's a lot of heartbreak, weeping. You see just bloodshot eyes, just still crying. You just see a lot of emotions right at the surface, and then just a lot of trying to figure out what's next. Confusion is not the right word. It's really just trying to navigate this space that you're in. So first, just trying to get warm. It's very cold here. I'm in a vest. I've been like in a vest for 2 weeks almost straight. I haven't taken this thing off. It's freezing, and here I am in a warm space. Many people are outside, and they have been for a long time. So they're looking for warmth. Maybe that's inside a small bus station or some shop. They're looking for food to feed their kids, maybe a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Like, that's first and foremost, just like warming up, figuring out just where you are and who is around to help you.
What kind of aid can you offer those folks, and how do you get to them, and how do they get to you?
So we have there are volunteers all along these border areas providing information that's so critical to have that information, just to know, again, where you can go, what transportation might be available to you to get to a safe place, to have a Wi-Fi spot to charge your phone so you can let your family members, maybe your husband or your father or your partner back home, know that you made it, that you're on your way to some form of safety. So the aid in that first step, literally first steps into this country, is information, help, literally letting people know you are a trusted source to help, food, blankets, water, coffee. We're talking basic essentials. And then from there, we offer sort of more formal assistance. So accommodation centers, places to have shelter, food, to be able to rest for a few hours, a few nights, transportation to get to another border, a range of assistance, counseling, and even trauma counseling for parents and families. And what we're looking at now, Vince, is sort of a not longer term, but transitional period of people who are looking to maybe stay for an extended period here in hopes they can return home. So, what does that shelter look like for them? And what is a dignified, safe space to be in?
Is it something where they plan to remain in Moldova where you are, or are they dispersing to other areas, other countries, and other cities?
A majority are going to Romania. So they're just crossing through in hopes of getting, into the EU, getting to another country. And then many, those who have less means, frankly, who have less financial resources, are staying closer to the border, staying closer to home with the hope of returning.
I think what's lost on some folks is that among those who left early and in this first wave were people of means, correct? There were people who had a place to go, not all of them, but a number of them. And there's concern that there will be even more with fewer choices or fewer resources available to them as this situation continues to ride out, correct?
That's exactly right. A majority of people. And what's so incredible is just the outpouring of, first of all, generosity across cities like Chicago, across the United States, across the world towards what's happening. But here in Moldova, I am just blown away by the generosity of community members here. And so many families have taken in Ukrainian refugee families. Family seems, it doesn't capture it because they're not whole. You have pieces of a family staying, but to be able to be inside a home, to have that privacy, to collect yourself, to grieve, to have really tough conversations maybe with your children and your loved ones, to have somebody sharing a meal with you and showing you kindness, is everything when you are really at the mercy of charity of others. And those who are fleeing now, and in general, those who are fleeing Ukraine are extremely vulnerable. You've only left with what you could carry. If you had a car or if you didn't, whatever you could carry is what you left with. And the decisions you're having to make as your family is torn apart and your country is torn apart is devastating, heartbreaking.
We hear so much, though, about this love of country and love of Ukraine. Are most of these people hoping to go back, expecting to go back?
Yes. 1,000% yes. Nobody wanted to leave their home in this way. And you meet with mothers here staying in shelters and hoping to go back soon, and you can only pray and wish that will be soon. But it is just so hard to imagine the decisions they're having to make with such exhaustion. We all know what it's like when we haven't had enough sleep or enough food, or we're just going through a hard time. And then you're having to make these monumental decisions that could change the trajectory of your life. How far do you go? Do you seek asylum somewhere else? Will your children be speaking that language? Will these be your new opportunities? Or do you stay and plan to go back and maybe you can't? These are just such huge decisions that you're making without all of your loved ones at your side, and certainly not your partner at your side because he may have had to stay back. And it's just that torment of how to explain to your children why you're sleeping in a car and how to go to the bathroom outside and why that's okay here. It's just the conversations you never would have imagined having. And it happened like that.
A month ago, they were living their normal, everyday lives, not unlike our own, and things have changed just massively. What's it like? What's the crew like from Catholic Relief Services on the ground? How many folks do you have there, and how are you providing the aid?
Well, I'm so proud of our team, and we're here with Caritas Moldova. So Sierra's had an office here, a smaller office, before this crisis, and we've always worked with our church partner, Caritas Moldova here, which is an incredible partner. So now our team is really diverse. It's all of these staff from across the world, so from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Greece, from Chile, from Chicago, you name it. All coming in to offer their technical areas of expertise to support our partner as they ramp up operations at a level unexpected, to be able to uphold that efficiency that we all strive for, but while meeting these urgent needs. So we're all here to help allow that to happen in terms of providing that support. So you have staff from all over Europe, all over the world. Many who have been refugees themselves. We have Ukrainian refugees among our staff, Iraqi refugees who are CRS staff, and we're all here supporting our Moldovan staff who are living through this.
You have your staff on the ground. How do you interact with the refugees? Do you get them into shelter? Do you help get them to another country? Do you help provide them with a telephone or blankets or food?
Yeah, so we provide first. We very much interact. We want to let people know they are welcome. There are people who see them, who want to support them, and we are here for them. So all of our staff, most of our staff here are speaking the local languages here. We offer those items you just mentioned at the border, so blankets, supplies, coffee, food, and transportation. So transportation from the border to a Caritas or CRS supportive center in the city where they can have shelter and stay. These are really nice sort of spaces. They're almost like a modest hostel. So you have a privacy of a room with your family. You have a place to take a shower. You have a hot meal. You don't have to open a plastic wrapper in order to eat. You have a counselor on site and social workers who know the lay of the land, what options you have, what rights you have in any direction you decide to go. And then we also offer transportation to the Romanian border for those who want to go on, so that's safe, a trusted source of transportation. And now we're also offering cash assistance as well, so people can purchase items that they might need. And that expansion now the relief is growing into different ways, but it covers that urgent support to what is sort of this transitional period.
Is there a particular interaction you've had with a refugee family or a particular refugee that just sticks with you?
Yes, I have two. One, my first day actually at the border, where I met in one of these busy bus stations this man who was in his 60s charging his phone, and he really wanted to talk. And he said he had arrived a few days ago, and he said, "Can I show you where I'm living with my grandchildren?" And I said, "Of course." And we walked out of the bus station to a parking lot, a dirt parking lot, and there in the car were two adorable children who were under the age of 5 and his wife. And he said, "We've been sleeping in this car for the past 2 nights." He has to explain to his children why all of this is happening. And he said, and this is not the first time I've had to do this. He said, "I fled Azerbaijan to Ukraine as a refugee and have been living there for 20 years. And now he's fleeing his homeland again." And he said, "Where do I go? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going." And so that was my first day. And then yesterday, I met with a Moldovan man who's in his 60s who was hosting a Ukrainian woman and her daughter. And he's single, living on his own, a pensioner, living off his pension. And he was hosting a woman who was maybe in her 30s, and she had a young 2-year-old daughter whose name was Victoria, or Victory, as they call her here. And he said, "I have the sounds of children in my house again." And she was describing like what it means to have a private space just to kind of, collect yourself and figure out what to do. And he is like many Moldovans who've taken in Ukrainian refugees, and is so generous. And CRS is now supporting Moldovans who take in refugees into their home by supporting some of the costs for heat and food and things of that nature. And so we're establishing these agreements in different cities and towns that have a flat rate for those who take in refugees to help with those expensive costs, especially when it's really cold and winter here. And so just the generosity of Moldovans here, and then just the pursuit and integrity of Ukrainians who are just navigating something they never thought they would be living through.
Do you have all the resources that you need?
It's hard to know how this emergency will grow. I mean, we are working in Ukraine and across the region, Poland and Romania. And so our Caritas partners are ramping up operations. We are providing here from Moldova a caravan of goods into our Ukraine to our Caritas partner. Caritas Poland is doing the same thing, a pipeline of goods, a convoy going into Caritas, into Ukraine to reach our Caritas partners there. So we're doing what we can to help each other. It is really hard to know. We hope we are planning for whatever is needed. And we're in the early stages of our outreach, of our engagement with our donor community, but I think support is going to be needed at a level. I think support is going to be needed at a high level, and we just have to see what's happened. But we will be there no matter what. We will be here with the Ukrainians and with our partners who are so tirelessly and generously helping them. The Catholic Church the presence is incredible. It is unlike any other organization, Caritas, here, and the presence that they have and the role they have across this region is unparalleled. And that trust at that community level, the rich understanding of communities where they've been serving and they're of these communities, it is so critical to be able to address needs with the wisdom that's required and the dignity to uphold, which is something we all strive for within our work.
You know, something that's not lost on me, and you're talking about the generosity of the people of Moldova. Moldova is not the wealthiest of countries to begin with. In fact, I understand, I was doing some reading, I think it is among the poorest in the area, and yet there is this willingness to help the refugees as they cross the border.
It's the poorest country in Europe, Moldova, and yet everywhere, like at any border, you see hundreds of Moldovan civilian volunteers who've left their work for that day, who've made the meals at their home, who are spending their time there, providing this food and the warm coffee and the information, wearing a vest to let them know, we're official, we're here, speaking the local language. It is incredible. And then those bringing into their homes and sharing their rooms and their kitchens and their meals and eating at the same dining room table. And then so many of my Moldovan colleagues who are just working night and day. This was something they also hadn't planned for in their professional careers, to now be working 24/7, having all of us come into their offices and break their coffee machine, twice over now. And, but we're all like living as family. And I had no idea 3 weeks ago I would have had such connection to Moldova, but if I had a chance to, have a second passport, sign me up. I am so in awe of the Moldovan. I do not say this lightly. I'm just so in awe of the Moldovan people and of this country and the communities here. It is so inspiring to all of us.
In the headlines, we hear so much about refugees crossing the border in Poland, but Poland is not the only point where refugees are crossing. There are people crossing south of that area as well. There's a crossing in Hungary. There's this crossing in border crossing in Moldova. Are you seeing people who were? Are you seeing people who were afraid that the lines were too long in Poland and had to make a more circuitous route to Moldova? Is that what you're finding?
Actually, what we're finding now is that people are getting on buses and they're being told they're going to one location and they show up at a different border, different country altogether. It is so chaotic inside Ukraine, and there's such a high level of fear. People are just getting on the transportation they can get on, and they might be told they're going in one direction, but they end up at another. And that happened to our colleague who went to go meet her parents from Kyiv at the border, and they ended up at an entirely different part of the country. And so there's just so much confusion and so much desperation. You're just literally fleeing for your life. And so you just get on that route out, and then you end up somewhere else, and you just hope, well, you'll be okay here. So what we're finding, a majority are heading towards Poland, at more than half of all of the refugee population, but definitely you have higher numbers coming in other areas as well. And it'll just be interesting to see how that grows and changes over time. A lot of it is just luck or what happens on their journey, not necessarily planned.
Well, Caroline Brennan, we thank you and Catholic Relief Services for the good work you're doing in what is truly a humanitarian crisis. something that I don't think so many people could foresee, this type of need just a few months ago. And so many folks here in the United States are offering help and support. I know that a number of our schools here in the Chicago area, a number of our churches have been sponsoring drives and been collecting items and sending them to organizations like yours to try to help the refugees as their numbers mount at the borders. I want to thank you so very much for speaking with us today, and I hope that you stay safe as well.
Thank you so much. And I just want to let you know we feel the support. We really, really, really do. And that means so much. And, a little goes a long way here. If you are cold and you are given a blanket, or your children are hungry and you're given food, that is everything. So I just want to thank you so much to my fellow Chicagoans, but so many of you. We feel it. We're grateful. It's needed. People are very grateful here. Very, very grateful for just kindness and recognition that there is a need. And so much of the attention can be on the physical destruction of war and changing front lines and all of those things that are very important. But what's so critical for so many is just the emotional needs within a person and within that family unit, and just having that strength to get from today to tomorrow, and then figuring out what to do then. And so that support for those moments in time, to be present, to show that you are there and you are with them. I'm not just giving you food, but I'm with you in this moment. It means a lot.
Caroline, thank you so very much. Once again, please stay safe, and thank you for the very important and loving work